we all talk about, big numbers about India being a $10 trillion economy, India being a $5 trillion economy. But until we don't get more and more people to participate in this journey, this is going to be a difficult one. To throw some numbers at you, there are over 50 crore people who have linked their PAN with Aadhars.
Okay.
There are 10 crore people who've invested in crypto. There are 80 crore people using e-commerce. Right? I think the population that you have not targeted is so huge that even if more people come into the market, I think that will still be small. We think there is a large market out there to be tapped. It's a matter of creating the right journey for those investors. And I think that is what will, stand us apart from a lot of other people in the market as we go ahead.
Cut to today. There's an AUM that you've reached today. What is that number?
So 3 months, 500 crores, 1 lakh investors is what we've reached.
Man, Vishal, first of all, thank you so much for being here. This has been setting up for some time now, and I've been super excited to host you, honestly.
Same here, Arj. Thanks so much for inviting me here.
I do want to start. Of course, I'll start giving context. So, you're heading Zerodha Fund House now. And trust me when I say it, all of us have been following the launches, when you launch new products, and we've been supporting from the sidelines. But before we get into that, I wanted to zoom out a lot, right? And I start all my conversations with this question. Tell me, why do you do what you do? Because you've been doing it for some time now.
Difficult question, Harsh, but I think one of the things that drives me today, at least, is the fact that I want to see more and more people, build better financial outcomes with the money that they have. I think there is a lot that needs to be done in that space in terms of India being up there in terms of financial inclusion.
Yeah, very interesting. Cool. And what years were these? For example, when you were in school, what kind of India are you talking about?
What was India at that point in time? Well, India was a socialist economy.
Yeah.
What comes to my mind is Ambassador, Fiat, Bajaj, Chetak. All these things are things that kind of come in my mind at that point of time. You had a very few brands because you had a licensed art system at that point of time, and therefore, industries were very few at that point of time. You didn't have too much of competition, and therefore the products that you got in the market were not of great quality. Until the time that India went through that bad phase in 1990, 1991, when it took a turn for the positive. So that India was different. Happy to be part of this new India, and also have seen the old India as well.
Talk to me about that, right? So even if we talk about investing, it's fast. It's a tap away, right? That India, completely different scenario, right? So explain that transformation, like explain that before and after. What was that like compared to what it's today?
So very different at that point of time. Obviously, I mean, if you looked at, say, financial markets, you had only the Bombay Stock Exchange. You had an open outcry system at that point of time. You didn't have the online trading that you do today. Most people at that point of time, mutual funds obviously weren't there. The only mutual fund that you had was UTI. Private sector mutual funds, I think, started somewhere in the mid-90s or so. Most people invested either in LIC or fixed deposits, right? If you had to buy a life insurance policy, if you had to buy a mutual fund from a unit trust of India, you typically have a distributor coming to you. Some uncle who's been doing that since ages will come, fill up a form for about 10-15 days. You won't know what's happened. And then, and so it's a very offline kind of a process, a very different kind of way investment was done. I'm sure when you talk about all this to people today, I mean, it looks like it was eons ago, keeping in mind how things have changed.
Yeah, super. I think we have a stat here, with at least a pointer here, which says you launched India's first ETF. This was back in 2001, I think. What was that like?
ETFs were a very new thing, in the late 90s. The first ETF, I think, was launched somewhere in maybe 1995 or 1996. It was based on the S&P 500 index. A very new concept abroad. We brought that to India in 2001. So India, in fact, was one of the very few countries in the world where we launched the first ETF in a span of about 5-6 years. So that was how fast we were able to bring that technology into the country. It wasn't easy. It looks very simple that has been done, but it wasn't an easy one, keeping in mind the financial ecosystem at that point of time.
Yeah. Give us a snapshot, right? Matlab, abhi we know okay, there are so many Indians investing. What was the number then?
I still remember when we launched Nifty Bees way back in December 2001. We were so gung-ho about the product, and we said in 6 months, this is going to be 500 crores, man.
Yeah.
At that point of time, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It finally became 500 crores somewhere in 2015.
Crazy.
So we were possibly ahead of our times,
Yeah.
At that point of time. One positive development that happened during that time was that NSE had come up. And therefore, that earlier thing of having the open outcry system for stock exchanges, this was an online stock exchange which was launched somewhere in 93, 94 or so.
Yeah.
That made it that much more easier for us to launch sophisticated products like ETFs.
Yeah. And what did you identify, right? What is the problem? Is the problem trust? I mean, at that point, I mean, people weren't even, I think, investing as much. But in all your years now, what have you understood is the basic blocker to people investing and, putting their money in investment products? Is it trust? Is it awareness? What have you sort of understood here?
I mean, for an asset management company, I would say the first thing is trust. I mean, it's the most important thing. And trust is not easy to build. I mean, you need to be doing the right thing every day, day after day, month after month, year after year.
Yeah.
And until you don't get that right, people are not gonna, multiply their money and start putting more and more money in your product. So I think trust is very important for an asset management company.
Of course, you spent all your life in one sector majorly, and you have crazy depth there. But for operators and leaders watching this, what would you recommend? Depth or width? Should people have one focus or basically become specialists or generalists?
But very difficult to, use.
Maybe from your POV. What has worked for you?
Yes, I'm a specialist, right? But it depends on which field you are in, right? If you're a doctor, you're a specialist, right?
Yeah.
If you're a manager, you're a generalist, right? You want to build an automobile and you want to build a plane, a generalist can't do it, right?
Yeah.
So I think it depends on each sector. I don't think I can give you a generic answer.
Yeah.
But when I look at myself per se, I'm a specialist in the field of passive investing.
Super. Let's start diving deeper into Zerodha Fund House, right? We got very curious when we saw it launched. I literally remember going to the website and it kept saying coming soon. But let's talk about the product. What are you trying to solve with Zerodha Fund House?
Well, the problem that for us that we're trying to solve is how do you get more and more people to start using mutual funds? If you look at the data today, there are 4 crore unique PAN folios in the mutual fund industry. And the industry has now been there since 30 years, 3 decades now.
Yeah.
And therefore, penetration is limited when it comes to mutual funds. When you look at our joint venture partners, whether it's Zerodha Broking, whether it's small case, one of the things that they have worked on over the years is how do you get more and more people to start investing into the capital markets? How do you get more and more people to access the capital markets to basically build better financial future for themselves, right? Use products that make sense, use products that are simple, because that's the only way you'll be able to get more and more people to start, using financial products, to better their lives. And I think that's the objective, that we want more and more people to start adopting products like mutual funds because they're highly regulated, they're easy to use. And we think that, that's the way that investors should start their financial journeys, to help them achieve whatever goals and objectives they have in life.
Yeah. So 2 things here, right? So one is getting people to start investing in mutual funds by themselves. And the second bit is starting off with passive, right? So one thing, of course, that we understand stands out with passive is the simplistic nature of it. Is it's easy to explain. There's nothing crazy happening there. Like, so is that it? Like, why the tilt towards the passive side of investing?
That's right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a very simple concept to understand. It's transparent. It's cost effective for an investor. It's a scalable product and it fits into anyone's portfolio.
Yeah.
Right, at any given point of time. I mean, look at the flip side of it. If I asked you that, Harsh, we need to get the next 10 crore investors to start investing in mutual funds. What would you say? Would you have a fund manager standing there and saying that, look, I believe in a top-down approach, where I believe that the economy is going to grow by 8 or 9%. And these are the sectors that are going to do well. Then you have another fund manager who comes and talks to you and says that, look, I like a bottom-up approach where I believe that these sectors are going to do well and this is the impact it's going to have on an economy. You'll have a third fund manager who will come and say, look, I believe in smart beta strategies. You'll have a fourth fund manager that comes and says, look, I believe in momentum strategies. Now, when you're speaking to an investor who's not even started his investment journey, he's going to be put off.
Correct.
He's not going to be understanding that.
Yeah.
So how will you get the next 10 crore investors to start investing in those mutual fund products? Right? To me, the first leg, the first entry point for any investor would be a passive product naturally. Because the day I came and told you, look, Harsh, these are the best 250 companies in India for you to invest in. Do I need to say anything more to you?
Got it. Makes sense. And tell me, what were those initial days were looking like? So, of course, like you said, starting from setting up an office in Bangalore, the line taking 2 months to get built inside the office. But paint us a picture of that initial few days of setting this up and getting it up and running.
Weren't easy. Because when you look at a mutual fund, there are, I think, 3 licenses in India, which I think are quite tough to get. One is a banking license, one is a asset management license, and one is an insurance license. These 3 licenses are extremely tough to get because of the tough regulatory environment that is there. To everything that you can think of, we had to start from scratch.
Cut to today. There's an AUM that you've reached today. What is that number?
So 3 months, 500 crores, 1 lakh investors is what we've reached. First milestone of ours. We hope that, this base goes on and we're able to achieve, far greater heights as we move ahead.
Yeah. Super. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Cool. I think one thing that I definitely wanted to go into is that question about the market has a lot of fund houses today, right? So talking about things that our audience loves to hear, right? What is the right to win in this category? Like you said, there are a bunch of about 4 crore portfolios that are listed. Is the insight that you have to get new people involved and that is the market that you're going after? But what is that looking like? What is the right to win in this category, very honestly?
I mean, as I said earlier, trust is one big factor that you need to have in the market to be able to get more and more investors to invest in your products. But other than that, when you look at the industry today, as I mentioned to you, the industry is heavily tilted towards building products and processes for institutional investors and HNIs, basically the evolved class. There is still a huge population out there which you need to cater to. So I don't think that having 42 AMCs is too large. I think the population that you have not targeted is so huge that even if more people come into the market, I think that'll still be small. To throw some numbers at you, there are over 50 crore people who have linked their PAN with Aadhars.
Okay.
Right? There are 10 crore people, last when I saw, who've invested in crypto. Right? There are 80 crore people using e-commerce. Right? So there are people using a lot of stuff online, consuming a lot of things online, but they don't seem to be buying mutual funds at that pace. Right? We think the market is big. We think that if you're able to simplify the entire process, if you're able to build the right kind of journey for these investors, we think that's how penetration will start happening. And that's what we want to focus on and we are focusing on in the organization. I'll give you a few dynamics about the kind of investors that are investing. The average age group is between 25 and 35 years old. We're getting nearly 35% of our investors coming in from very small towns, right? we are seeing repeat purchases happening day in and day out from investors on the product.
Yeah.
Our very strong belief is that simplicity will lead to a lot of conversion that's happening. Today, people use Amazon because Amazon has just made it so simple for you to buy things, and it just comes into your house so easily.
Yeah.
We think there is a large market out there to be tapped. It's a matter of creating the right journey for those investors.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about a few things that, kind of ticked me off, thinking, have you ever looked at what's happened with Jan Dhan accounts? Right? Somewhere in 2014, 2015, government came up with, a proposal which said that they want to open a bank account for each and every citizen in India. Right?
Yeah.
Do you know how many bank accounts they've opened?
We can take a guess. Like 100 crores or something.
They've opened 50 crore bank accounts.
Yeah.
Right? Next question. Do you know how much is saved in these bank accounts as an aggregate?
No idea.
Take a wild guess.
Wow.
Throw a number.
Like 1,000 crores.
2 lakh crores.
Crazy.
So there is a market out there to be tapped. And it's extremely important that for you to be able to talk to them, to reach out to them, you have to simplify the product.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to have conversion happening.
Yeah.
So we think there is a market out there. It's a matter of getting it right.
So but I think what's very interesting and insightful here is that all these companies have been building for the 4 crore people who have already registered, but there's a massive market that is yet to be included. So that's interesting, right? What would Zerodha Fund House look like at scale? So of course, like you said, you want to devote the next decade building for this set, which has not been included financially. They will come to, they will be included in the system. And that's a massive base waiting to be tapped. What does this look like at scale?
I mean, again, Harsh, very early days to, give you numbers. But to me, say a 1 lakh crore AUM, having at least, I would say 4 to 5 crore investors would be something that would mark a great achievement from our side, actually.
Yeah. You see, and where does the India story fit in there, right? So maybe help me with a number here. What is the current base, percentage-wise, what is the current base that invests in passive today in India?
In terms of number of investors, I think in ETFs, there would possibly be about 1.2 to 1.3 crore investors or so. In index funds, there would possibly be about maybe 40-50 lakh investors.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, so we had this number that 17%, about 15 to...
In terms of AUM, it's about 17%.
Correct. So
in terms of AUM.
Of total mutual fund investments. Yeah. To compare that, in the US, about 52% of the population invests in passive, and the total AUM, about 54-55% is allocated to passive, right? Tell us where India is heading, and what do you see happening there? Like, do you think India bridges that gap from going from 15 to more than half of the people investing in passive?
I mean, in US, you're right. About half of the assets at this point of time are linked towards passive products.
Yeah.
India is at a very different space.
Yeah.
Where there is still a lot to be done.
Yeah.
If you want to compare developed markets, then you have to kind of look at even numbers that are linked to developed markets, right? When you look at market capitalization, that means value of the stock markets. In developed markets, it's nearly a 1:1 ratio. So you have like a $20 trillion economy and a $20 trillion market cap.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not comparable markets. But my belief is that in India, because you have a lot of people out there who've not even started putting in money, for me, passive becomes the first stepping stone for them to invest, simply because of the simplicity of the product.
Makes sense.
And therefore, to me, I'm very bullish about the passive space in the coming years in India.
Super, done. And I think finally around insights into building in this industry. So I asked because we were talking to a member and he's building SaaS online, right? Which is again a broker. And we were talking to him about, and he was speaking to us about Zerodha, by the way. And he said one thing that they cracked is tech. So he said tech becomes a big moat. But what are other ways of, like, of course, like you've spoken about simplicity, you've spoken about creating awareness, but as a company, what becomes the core insight into growing this in this industry? For example, we all know about agents, for example, that have always existed before. Like you said, one uncle coming in, making sure that you invest. Is it offline distribution? Is it tech? Is it the brand that you build? What becomes the core way of standing out here?
So I think digital will be the way ahead. It simplifies the systems and processes very easily. And therefore, when you look at passive from an asset management business, it works very well. And that's what makes it scalable. Right. And therefore, when you look at something like an asset management business and passive inside the asset management business, even when we scale to 10,000 crores, to 50,000 crores, to 1 lakh crores, you won't need so many people in the organization. We could have very well gone and bought out another AMC that was there in the market. But we didn't do that simply because there's a lot of legacy that comes with it. We wanted to build the AMC with a clean slate of paper. If I have to build a low cost product, I can't build a low cost product if I have a high cost infrastructure behind. And I think that is what will stand us apart from a lot of other people in the market as we go ahead.
So of course, Charlie Munger has been a massive inspiration for us. And he talks about the amount of inversion in his investing and in his life. What is your core principle been in terms of the way you invest, and what has been your mantra that's worked for you?
Again, simplicity. Right. When I look at my portfolio, I have not had more than 4 or 5 products in my portfolio all throughout my life. I find it difficult to manage despite being a fund manager. So keep it simple. Focus on asset allocation. Right. And keep investing small bits all throughout your life. Don't get out of the Indian markets.
Understood. What has been your biggest blunder with money?
Real estate. Again, real estate, more to save tax. And for me to save tax, I invest in a real estate property, which I'm finding very difficult to sell now.
Makes sense.
So I think that was a bad decision that I took at that point of time.
Got it. Cool. Getting into rapid fire and quick questions and quick answers to this. So mutual funds or gold?
Mutual funds.
10 years in the industry working or getting an MBA degree?
10 years in the industry working.
Super. There's a question. I'm 29. My girlfriend made me invest all my life savings in one stock. It's crashed now and I'm almost broke. What would you suggest?
Leave her.
Nice. Describe these companies in one word. LIC.
License to die.
Fixed deposits.
Secure.
RBI.
God.
Super. Real estate, gold, equity, mutual funds, and bonds. Rank them in the order of the most lucrative to the least.
So on a risk return kind of a parameter, I would say equity first. I would say mutual funds first. Then equity. Then bonds. Then gold. And then real estate.
Got it. Cool. Understood. Got it. And finally, one founder that's gotten your fancy in the Indian ecosystem and you believe they're building something great.
Zerodha Fund House.
If that's not an option to choose.
I can't think of any right now. Tu hi bata de.
No, done. I think all good. I think there's one final question that the team wanted to ask is, if you had to look back on all your journey of building this career, what would be one advice that you would have given to a younger self and to anybody watching this?
Keep at it. As I mentioned to you earlier as well, that there will always be bad days and there'll always be good days. Look forward to the good days. Because that's what keeps you going on. Keep looking into the future all the time.
Done. It makes sense.